Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another interview over here at Behind Us. So my name is Holden Stephan Roy, and joining me today is...
My name is Myer Clarity. I am a multi-genre producer and rapper, once from Montreal, now based in Toronto, but always a Montrealer at heart.
That's fair, and the reason, if you'll notice, it's a different locale than normal. It's because I'm actually up in Toronto. I left Montreal for a quick minute. So here we are, actually up at the dude's studio. It's all freaking fresh. Maybe we'll cut in a little shots that we'll have taken at this very moment.
Let's get some B-roll after this.
Absolutely. So so it's freaking cool, man. If you guys saw this place, you'd be like, damn, it's fresh.
Real quick, shout out to Epic Mealtime. This is not a V-neck. I have a lapel on. I'm not a V-neck kind of guy, but I am an Epic Mealtime kind of guy.
Yeah, there's some good Montreal fun. If you do not know who they are, just absolutely take a quick second to look that shit up over on YouTube. So Myer made some dope music recently. I reviewed one of his albums and it was freaking great in my opinion. You can check that out somewhere in the corner. It's gonna pop up if you want to watch that. But I thought it would be real cool to talk to Myer and just kind of see what he's up to these days and what's going on a little bit in his world. And I don't know, I mean, why don't you start off with I guess Not All Heroes Wear Capes, Part 2.
Dos. Alright, well, I apologize for the crow's feet. I didn't really sleep last night.
That's fair.
I've been having weird insomnia, and I just end up writing lyrics on Rap Genius all night long, which is...
It's a good use of time. That's
what
all
cool
I'm trying to say.
Do.
Good use of time.
Yeah, and then I watch The Simpsons. Whatchamacallit? Not All Heroes Wear Capes, too. So this is my latest album that just came out. And firstly, thank you so much for reviewing it. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's a great album.
You went really in depth, and if I could just give you multiple pats on the back, you had really good instincts about what a lot of the lyrics were about.
I appreciate that. I'm awesome to say this.
Right on. Yeah, no, this is unsolicited, and yeah, so I just appreciate you listening that closely and checking and just sort of trying to digest. I guess what I'm putting out there, because it means that people are listening intently on the level that I, as an artist, would hope that people would, because I listen to music that way and I digest everything that way. And so,
just to circle back to Genius, a lot of those people congregate on that site and leave their little comments and annotations. It's pretty cool. But what led to this? Just I guess the whole series, because it's part 1 and part 2, and how did you just end up conceptualizing that you're gonna run this series of albums like this? And is there gonna be a part 3? Is a little follow-up question.
Yes. Okay. So right off the grip, there is a part 3, and I'm working on it right now, and it's cool. Sounding really good, and I'm excited for it. And I'll show you one of the songs off camera, but you guys don't get a sneak peek. So Not All Heroes Wear Capes started out as a joke title between me and my friend Tragic from Philly Moves. Shout out Philly Moves. We were touring California with Ill Vibe and Graydon and World Class Human Squadron, and I think we were in Santa Cruz or somewhere, and we just had this funny image of me rolling a joint hungover in a bathroom stall with a 40, and this is when I was at my most scummy and drinky and boozy, so it just kind of went with the territory, and Tynan was yeah, you should call it Not All Heroes Wear Capes, and it stuck with me, and so did the cover, but eventually I changed the cover. But yeah, so it just sort of stuck with me as a saying and an expression, and I grew up reading a lot of comic books and a lot of video games, so I'm really in that world, and just dramatizing all of it. And then additionally, just to make a long story short, the title kind of evolved as people are always more than they seem, and so for example, someone with tattoos conventionally might be seen as a more threatening person or a criminal or some shit, and oftentimes it's not the case, and it's the squeaky clean people that do the most like messed up, fucked up, corrupt shit, and then vice versa. The people that look threatening or that like society deems as threatening are oftentimes more helpful and warm. You know, it's like a case by case thing. But I'm just, long story short, the title became about that.
So, in this little universe, do you see yourself as the hero?
Yes and no. I started out as the villain. Well, I started out as like Eddie Brock, in a way.
Okay.
Like, kind of like getting the Venom suit a little bit. Or I don't. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but I don't know. Yeah, I felt like I always just started out trying my best, and then I feel like I got shit on, and that made me jaded. And then you get kicked down, and then so you want to just give as good as you get, and so sometimes that translates into like being antagonistic and playing the villain role and being that guy. And so definitely like on this album it was about that, and on the first album a lot too is about that. But Capes 3 is going to be more about like coming to terms with like why I even wanted to do that, and then maybe like redeeming myself, kind of like how in some movies the villain becomes the good guy at the end and like saves the day. So I'm going for that on Capes 3. That's kind of like the energy I'm diving into it with.
You definitely had a sense on the second project, like as the album just went on, that it went from this chaotic, angry place almost to like this hopeful, more optimistic tone by the end. So I was wondering, I think a lot about song placement and just the order people put the music in, and I assume that you put a lot of thought and consideration into that as well. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if that was like kind of a deliberate thing, almost to build up in the sense of a story arc to the third part.
In terms of like track listing, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had like a listening party a couple months before, and I was testing out the track list just to see like where people's attention stopped, and so that kind of influenced partly how I ordered the album, which is why like a lot of the really strong songs are all up front, and those are all actually songs I did more recently. And then the older material, which is stuff that backdates to like 2015, is more towards the end. And like everything is like freshly mixed, and like we breathe new life into everything. But basically what happened is Not All Heroes Wear Capes was supposed to be this 17-track album, and I split it into 3. And so I inject some new mixed with the original 17 tracks that we recorded, or 16 tracks. And so yeah, it just like blends both of them together so that it tells the story but also is fun and digestible, So like for example, I Don't Wanna Through Friend Zone is all newer material versus Screaming Through fucking Nothing Lasts Forever. Those 5 tracks are older tracks.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I also just kept like the more emotional shit like aimed at the back of the album, because it's like an album is supposed to serve 2 purposes. On the one hand, earlier on in your career, it's like a calling card and like a reason you keep getting invited to shit, and like opens doors, which means that when you're organizing the track list, keep your oppressive shit first, because industry folk have a very short attention span. And then you can keep your like introspective dope fan shit at the back of the album, because that's who's going to be listening to the album fully, versus like the booking agent is going to listen to maybe the first 2 tracks, so make those the hits. So that's kind of my thinking towards the whole thing.
So one last question, just I guess on the Capes part. When do we expect the third one?
I don't want to make any promises, so
fair enough.
I'm just gonna say, I don't know. I got like I think 2 more singles queued up for this year, plus another secret little fun project that's gonna drop in December. So I think that's what you can expect from me for sure, is 2 more singles as well as like a fun EP. And then next year, I'm hoping to have all of it like done and ready to go, and just like start firing off singles like bi-monthly.
Fair enough. So you're independent, right? Or are you signed at this point?
I'm signed to an independent label called Heavy Ox. But yeah, essentially I'm independent and distributed through Fontana North. And then Heavy Ox kind of provides guidance and consultation and is the subsidiary of Fontana North. And so together, I'm also a part owner of the label as well. And so I own a stake. And so we're just trying to build that as the imprint going forward. And yeah, take that from like an independent thing to like a, fucking goddamn business.
What's some of the more interesting things then that y'all have gotten up to in the last little while?
So from a label standpoint and just from a production standpoint, I've been doing like a lot of work with a couple Juno nominated acts that we're really excited for, and we're just trying to make the most potent.
Hold up. For all of y'all out there that are not from Canada, the Junos are like the Grammys, but for Canada. Anyway, back to you.
Putting people on game. Yeah, so we're working on a couple Juno nominees. I think a couple winners as well.
That's pretty
I'm always
cool.
like, I'm always fucking shitty with the details. I gotta get better at that. But it's exciting, and we're just focusing on like making really like potent, timeless pop music that people can like listen to a million times, and like 10 years from now and not be like, oh, that's corny, something that'll like stand the test of time because it was premeditated and well written, and I'm just on the boards doing my thing.
So you do a lot of the mixing and stuff as well?
Yeah, so I do everything from like production and like drum programming and like composition and keys and everything, to recording, to mixing, to writing. I do some graphic design and some video work as well. So I'm kind of like a one-stop shop a lot of the time.
That's really cool. Were you like always involved in a lot? Like I'm pretty sure back in the day you were doing production work. But like were you always ambitious in the sense that you were gonna do everything, or were you kind of hoping that you would just rap and
I like the initial dream was to just rap. So like when I was younger, I liked doing video just separately. It was just like a separate ambition. And so I think more now I've kind of been finding that like all these separate ambitions I had as a kid are all sort of feeding back into the rap shit. So like video editing and like graphic design and like acting and shit. These were all like things I was passionate about as a kid that I all dropped for music. But then now out of necessity, just because I can't, well, not because I can't, but yeah, out of like necessity and just the way the music landscape is going, I've kind of re-implemented all these things I used to do as a kid because I still have these skills. And so that's allowed me to kind of like move as like a team, even though I'm one guy, just because I did all these things when I was younger and I have like that built into my brain.
So you would recommend to people then that it's important to play more than one hat in your little empire as you run with it?
Yeah, I mean, some people are lucky. I'll put it this way. Some people are lucky and like right out the gate they get a manager, and so they can only focus on music, or they only have to. And it's a gift and a curse because it frees up a lot of mental energy to be a rock star, and you might get your dreams faster, and you might get your dreams bigger. But the crash might also be bigger and you won't learn as much. Versus me, who wanted that and went after that, but it never materialized, and it was just like one hurdle after the other till I ended up learning all these skills and these things for myself. So that now, when I'm approaching like team members and like who do I want to manage me, so on and so forth, I have like my own skill and I have my own like experience, I guess, to know who to hire and who to trust and who's going to be good and who's going to be like, ineffective kind of thing, versus like someone who got lucky and didn't learn all the ins and outs and so won't know who to trust as much. And so that's kind of a more scary world. Say you're like a big star and your manager fucking fucks off or dies and you're like, shit, now what do? I never learned any of this for myself, and that was the only person I really trusted. So yeah, gift and a curse.
So I mean, I know there's a lot of stories where that kind of stuff has played out, but have you seen that like play out personally with people you know?
For management?
Like just in general, where like you see people almost get the dream and then it just kind of implodes due to like not having that skill set in place.
Yeah, I've seen that multiple times. And all those people at one point or another fucked me over. So, y'all know who you are, and
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, then at one point or another, you tried to do the get signed, kind of do that version of the dream, and it never like worked out. Is that because there just weren't offers, or it was just all bullshit?
it's like a lot of things. It's like Big Crit says, it's like geography lottery. So I wasn't in the most ideal place because the Canadian hip hop market is not exactly the most booming thing.
That's fair.
Yeah. So that combined with like me not wanting to move, which is my own shit because I played it safe and stayed in Canada. And additionally, like I got some offers, but again, it was like shitty Canadian deals kind of thing. Not to diss Canada, but these were some whack deals with like unreasonable expectations and amount of options and stuff. Type of like trap you on a shelf type ish. So yeah, I got a couple of those and it was just like dodging those, and I was always very hesitant. But eventually I signed with Heavy Ox just because it made the most sense, and just because it was something that I could additionally be a part of but also build. So that's important because I have like keys to the car in a sense, and so I input.
That makes a lot of sense. I think what's really interesting there, because I mean, for myself, I've learned a lot about the music industry and how scummy it can be. Scummy is a good word for it. But just the idea of like, is something that as a Montreal person, is nobody from Montreal's hip hop's really done very much, we'll say, like just ever.
I will say that like Montreal is like probably the best hip hop scene in Canada. Well, I don't know. I haven't been all of Canada, but Montreal is a really solid hip hop scene.
It's got a lot of things going on right now that not a lot of people are aware of because it suffers from the lack of organization, and it's like, from what I can see, Montreal's got a lot of moving pieces that don't talk to each other,
exactly.
And don't really want to necessarily talk to each other a little bit, but there's an insane amount of talent. But I think what was interesting about what you said with all that was it was going down to, I guess the States would have made a difference in some way. And is that like the reality for those of us up in Canada? Like, it's basically almost like go to the States or get lucky with virality?
I mean, yeah, you get lucky with virality, but that has its own stink attached to it. Because it's like, some people don't legitimize that.
Fair enough.
Because like, some of the people, I mean, to be fair though, like Childish Gambino kind of came up off virality, but he also did a lot of groundwork. But
that dude's special. That guy's like, just pick a front and he's done it.
Exactly. But no one thinks about that when they think about him. If you think about like virality, you think about like Watsky or Mac Lethal, I guess.
Yeah, those would be a lot more in line with what I would think of.
Right? So yeah, it has its own like ceiling, I think. Not to diss, but I just feel like everyone kind of has this, and maybe that'll change, obviously, because like we're changing music as we go forward all the time. So maybe that'll shift. But I think right now there's this like underlying feeling of like there's a ceiling or a cap on what a lot of them can do unless you prove them otherwise. And then the other part two to that question of like moving to the States, you just gotta like look at the math. Like Post Malone went to Southern California. Drake went to Atlanta to become successful. Tory Lanez went to Florida. Like anyone who became successful from Canada, not in Canada, from Canada, went to the States. Some people became successful in Canada and then they plateaued or whatever, or were just successful in Canada, or it doesn't translate to the States for some reason. I don't fucking know what it is, but I'm just saying, like, I've noticed that a lot.
So why didn't you go?
I don't know. I think I kept getting into relationships or one thing after another. I kept just getting somehow trapped. And so now I'm working it out in a way where I'm going to spend a legit amount of time in the States. Also, not to, like, I got to fucking, handle my own shit and say that I wasn't ready either. Like, I was drinking, I wasn't ready, I don't think I was at a level of production or maturity or just like understanding my artistry where I could go and replicate everything. I felt tied here because I would have either a producer or a team or something, and whether it be legit or excuse, it was just something to keep me here, whether here be Montreal or Toronto. And now I'm at a point where I feel like if I went, I could just tear shit up just by being there, and so I'm going to spend time there because I don't like the winter here.
So where are you going?
I'm going to go to fucking Los Angeles.
Are you gonna like move there, or are you just gonna like stay there?
No, I'm probably just going to do like a month there. It's still slowly being orchestrated. I don't really have anything in concrete, but we have like enough people that we know and fuck with out there that we could definitely occupy ourselves for at least a month.
That's interesting. So have you done a lot of touring then and whatnot?
Yeah, so we've done like a lot of touring there, and that's where I came up with the Not All Heroes Wear Capes ideas, like in Cali for one of the tours. So I think we've done 4 or 5, and then I've done like 2 states tours or 2 to 3 states tours in addition to that. Yeah, and then the rest is like Europe and Ontario.
How'd you get it to Europe?
Europe, we do the Netherlands, so there's this festival every year called New School Rules that we're always a part of. And then...
How did you get it? I mean...
They hold auditions in like Toronto and shit, and it's just a question of like reaching out to people and meeting people and just like connecting with them. And you know, what it is like everyone's a person, right? And so everyone's approachable, and you just show them that you're serious about what you do and that the quality of what you do is consistent. And so if you just approach them like a rational, normal person and ask how you can get involved, and then they look you up and they see that you're real, that's it. Easy peasy. I mean, assuming, you know, there's always biases and shit, but
that's fair. Man, it just seems to me like you've come like a pretty long way. Like,
thank you.
So I mean, when we look at the landscape of artistry, it seems like you either end up, we'll call it with a version of a label, and this transcends just music, right? Like, even if you're a podcaster, even if you make paintings or whatever, there's some label of sorts in there, and that's like with a more mainstream route to go about it. But it seems like what's becoming more prevalent is this do-it-yourself model, which seems to be a little bit more in the mantra of what you're going for with all of this stuff. Do you think that this is like actually a sustainable way to build out your future? Like for you, when you like come at this now, are you sitting there going, you know what, by the time I'm 40, it's done, it's over, I got this?
I think, yeah, I gotta say that like DIY phenomenon is only gonna get bigger, not smaller. I think rock stars are dead. I don't know how immediate that's gonna be, but I think.
What do you mean by that, if I may just interject?
For sure. So I think like the classic rock stars, like you used to have like fewer rock stars, you know? Like you would have people that were topping the charts like Rolling Stones and shit. And then as the years progress, you get more people, and you'd have like your, you know, fucking Eminems and your Jay-Z's and your Nas and like people topping the charts. And I think once the internet came about and more artists just started doing the independent things, it watered all of music down because everyone's attention is a little more like diffused, right? So you still have like Post Malone's and Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, but then like look at the freshman list every year, and like I don't hear from half of those dudes anymore, and like it just seems like longevity's out the window, and like it's just a lot more flash in the pan, fast, serviceable. And so I think that's just the end of like the old industry. That's just how we see it die out, and so it's just gonna like exist as this independent thing because fucking no one's gonna have a job anymore in the future anyway because it's all gonna be robotic. So everyone's gonna be creating. So everyone's gonna be like either an artist or like an Instagrammer or a blogger.
First I didn't fully agree with where you're going with it, but I gotta give you credit. I call it like everyone's gonna be a project manager or a programmer.
Yeah.
Now to go with that, being a vlogger or a rapper, it's all essentially project management. It's just that's a way more boring way to describe it. But when we look at the future, Robots can't manage projects. That's about the one thing they can't do.
So that's like the thing that we have to double down on, you know? Just learn how to be a good project manager.
But another thing robots can't do is be creative. So it's interesting because the robots can do is gives all of us individuals the tools necessary to do that DIY approach that you're describing.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at everyone's laptop. It's got GarageBand, which is like a little brother of Logic Pro, and you can open GarageBand sessions in Logic Pro, which means they're interchangeable. So it just means in the future there's gonna be more of that, and everyone's gonna be doing shit for themselves.
I mean, like on the real, we're sitting here. These microphones cost $25 Canadian, whatever.
See?
Like the computer's got a free application capturing the video right
This
now.
is my theory in action right now.
It's kind of what it is. Like, I mean, this whole YouTube channel that you're watching is essentially just a DIY because I was too broke to pursue other things at the moment, so I started running with it. And so I'm like, I fully support what you're saying here. Like, all things considered, it is basically how I have legitimized my career. It is not what I thought it would be. Because, I mean, when I was younger, I had dreams of being a narcissistic rock star. And then it turns out that that's not really realistic. And what's more interesting is that we can all be entrepreneurs. More like, it's almost like we get to be more like that version of Jay-Z, where we all build out our brands and our like businesses around ourselves. And I think that was an interesting thing that you touched on, was that by going through this DIY process of it all, it allows you to pick your team intelligently, and then essentially you control your brand.
Yeah, exactly. And you learn more what your brand is. It's like being a diamond in the rough for longer and longer and longer.
So what's your brand about then?
Right now I'm kind of doing a 180, but I'm just about like turning everything that my life has been about, or like everything I've gone through, trauma or pain wise or anything, or just lessons or cautionary tales. I'm just trying to turn that energy into like a positive learning experience for people. Not in a preachy capacity, but I'm just trying to make like fun, deep, engaging music that's authentic because it's about my life. And so people can take what they want from it. It's like the gospel of Myer in a way. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm just gonna like approach it that way, and I hope people accept it for what it is.
So are you trying to turn yourself into some, like, do you try to make pop music for yourself, or is the pop music more what you make for other people?
The pop music is more like what I make for other people. It's kind of like the icing on the cake, right? Like, I made a dope cake, but the cake still has to look good. So the pop music is for that, you know? Like, it's icing. But also, like, some pop can be fun and friendly and shit, and like, I have fun making it. I don't hate it. There's bad pop out there, but there's also good pop.
I agree with that sentiment. I feel like people tend to hate pop a little bit like, too quickly.
Right? Like, check this out. Think about this. Nickelback is pop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Outkast is pop.
Yeah.
Hey Ya is a pop song. So is any Nickelback song. They're in the same category, but one is good pop, one is bad pop. They're both like everyone remembers Hey Ya.
I'm gonna have to say, I reviewed Nickelback's 2017 album, and I flipped my whole script on them. Chad Kroeger can write a mean song.
Yeah, I haven't listened to any of their shit.
I'm just saying, I can't talk about the whole career. But that 2017 album was impressive as all anything.
Yeah.
There's like one song I thought was trash, but out of 11, 10 were pretty good.
By the way, I would just like to say that, like, obviously, we all fucking know, because we're grown-ups here, that Outkast and Nickelback are two very different bands, and I prefer Outkast tremendously more. I'm just saying, pop-wise, chart-wise, math-wise.
No, but he's right. Like, just to say it, like, if you were to create, like, I guess, like, a list of bangers to throw on, like, to sing to in the right car, you'd have How You Remind Me and Hey Ya on the same list, because they both can play that role, because that's what it is. We're not talking about Southern playalistic Cadillac music, right? Like that would be not the same as Nickelback, all things considered.
Exactly, and like most people don't even know they're Outkast fans, but they all love that Hey Ya song or Roses.
Roses are pretty good though. Like, I'm just saying, like Outkast's pretty good. In fact, like they're one of those bands where it's almost like the old stuff's pretty fresh because it's innovative, and the new stuff's pretty fresh because of good pop.
I can name you 10 bad Outkast songs though if I try it.
Yeah.
I can't name you, I'd have to look them
Nah, but I mean,
But there's some bad Outkast songs.
to be fair, you put out 8 albums. I feel like you're allowed to have a good 10 bad songs.
There's gonna be some Z cuts. You're allowed.
That's just what it is. Like, you might not agree with me, but I'm not a fan of Eminem's Drips. Say whatever you will. Like, that song to
Drips.
me, that's the one where him and Obi. Yeah.
No. Oh, I do like that song.
I mean, but basically the premise of that song is him and Obi get AIDS out the same girl.
Yeah, that's a dumb premise. It's an unusual premise. I'll give it that. Especially like I listened to it as a kid and didn't think twice, but listening to it now as an adult and imagine being the songwriter. Sorry to cut you off, but imagine being the songwriter. It's like, all right, we gonna write a song about us getting AIDS off the same girl.
Yeah.
Can we write a song about anything else? Nah. This is the one chance you get. This is your time to shine, Obi Trice, and we're gonna write about fucking the same girl. Really? There's no wiggle room on that. We can't write any other song. We have to write the one about fucking the same person and getting AIDS. This is my introduction to the world, is on the AIDS song. I'm Obi Trice, real name, AIDS gimmick.
The thing is the guy, if you actually heard a couple of his other songs, like the Got Some Tea Forever, it was alright.
Yeah, I'm an Obi Trice fan.
But like, I gotta give you credit.
It is just a funny situation.
It's a whack because then like you do have him on the next songs without me.
Check this out. This is a theory, but I've kind of pieced this together just now. So yeah, Obi Trice went along with all of it until he didn't, and I think that's when he lost some points. But it still went on for a while, and you saw some bad calls like Got Some Teeth and Drips, and that's just him going along with whatever the fuck M says. And then Stack Quo comes out, and then I've heard this from Stack Quo himself that basically the reason he got dropped from Shady is over a hook that Eminem did on one of his songs, and he was like, no, it was whack, and they got into a huge fight over it, and then he got dropped from the label because of that. So imagine that. It's just like that happening a lot, where it's just like, you gotta listen to M. He's you know, this is his fucking show here. This is the Eminem show. You gotta get on the AIDS song, Obi.
Everything I've heard about M as a label, no look, I understand. Every time I bring up Eminem, I'm required by internet protocol to say he's a legendary lyricist with all the talent in the world and he's super wonderful.
Why? Dude, we all know that already. You don't have to address that.
Internet cares, man. You don't understand. Somebody will comment if I don't say that shit.
All right.
But the guy's not good with the label moves. I mean, honestly, he's not. Paul Rosenberg is good with the label moves. Eminem has ruined a lot of careers more than he's helped a lot of careers.
Yeah.
And the proof's in the pudding because, I mean, look, thank goodness, I don't know if you're a fan of Griselda Records, but that's Benny the Butcher, Westside Gun, and Conway. They signed a distribution deal with Shady, so Eminem can't like touch them that much. But
he did fuck up that one Conway song.
I have to say, I never heard that M flow before. And I only listened to it once.
Yeah.
And from the perspective of the dude actually dropped a new flow on us, M did a really cool job on that front. Then if we want to get into the rest of it, I get what everyone feels than what they feel, but I'd rather M try and miss than just go back to the same.
Nah, here's my stance on that song. It's like they each did their thing, but you gotta cut that song in half and just make it 2 different songs because it's 2 different fucking songs. That's what it is. And Conway did his thing, and it's super dope for what it is. And then Eminem did his thing, and it's super dope for what it is. But both those things are at the opposite points of a Venn diagram, and it just does not meet up well. Yeah. And so that's why everyone's so mad about it.
Did you listen to the other guy, Boogie and Eminem song there? Now, as a single, the song's kind of aight. But when you listen to it in the confines of the album, it's like an album about a sad, depressed guy going through the hood struggles, and then M's verse about his career.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I can't get past about Eminem in the last, ever since Revival, it seems all he can rap about is his career.
Yeah, it's weird. I started on Eminem. I'm a huge Eminem fan. I really feel like I understand him from an artist to artist perspective. But there are a lot of things he does where it's just that was a mistake, or I wouldn't have done that. And you know what? Fuck it. It's very different because there's I'm not him, I wouldn't have thought to do a fucking song with Elton John, which is genius.
It is pretty good.
Right? But I think lately he's got a smaller and shittier circle, which allows him to make decisions like, putting on Stronger Than I Was on an album, or...
You know what it is?
Yeah.
It's Eminem is a very, very wealthy man. Like, very wealthy.
Yeah.
Like, for all terms and purposes, and I think you might empathize with this, he is the 1% that, like, I'm not a huge fan of, and I imagine you're not the biggest fan of.
I'm not.
So that cut or whatever, and it was awkward. Sorry, we took a little break. See, shit like that happens. His songs are that good. He said he would play them, and he lived up to them. You can't hear them YouTube, but they were good. You should wait for the next album to come out. I think we were talking about Eminem being the 1%, though. And I think this is probably the thing that bothers me the most about Eminem in general. And I say this because, like, I've come to really be, like, a person who's trying to, like, rise up. If you're born poor, to get out of being poor is just not really easy. The game is deliberately stacked against you on every conceivable front. Whole bunch of stuff to substantiate that if you really want to get into it in the comments or whatever. But, like, with that in mind, you have a guy like Eminem who went from being dirt poor, and then while he was in his, like, original ascent to fame, a lot of that shocking stuff made sense, and the anger made sense also because, like, he was literally being protested against by, like, religious groups and crap. Like, there was an active censorship war for the era going on. Let's jump ahead to, like, I don't know, now. We know he's got an elevator in his house because he keeps bringing it up and whatnot. He's basically wealthy.
Like, I like that song.
It's a great song, don't get me wrong. It really is. But, like, it's more to the idea that you have this guy now who is so disconnected from reality that he has nothing left to say.
Yeah, he has, like, a Mountain Dew fountain tap in his studio.
Which is, like, really cool.
Or some sort of soda.
What on earth is Eminem busy complaining about then? Why is every song to do complaining? Look at Jay-Z, and he's my, like, favorite counterpoint because Eminem just recently compared himself to Jigga. Mm-hmm. Jay-Z's like, I'm just super wealthy. Me and Bay, we're gonna go get the Louvre and film a music video there because we're just that boss, and nobody's complaining. They're just being bosses and just owning their shit. Whereas Eminem's still trying. It's almost like he's trying to reinvigorate this youthful audience of kids
who are, like,
never
in the situation he was that he's no longer in.
But it's just so disingenuous to me because the guy's 46 and he's a dad. Like, I want to know what it's like to, like...
There's no growth there. He's stuck in the past.
Or, like, what's it like to be wealthy?
I would say... So here's my take on this whole thing. First of all, I think Jay-Z's thing is he did the Louvre rapping for a minute, but I don't know if that really, like, translated. People thought it was interesting, but they started connecting more once he, like, opened up and did the 444 thing where he talked about cheating on B, right. And also additionally talked about, like, some financial game and just, like, his finances and shit like that, and explaining, like, you know, certain things people can do to up their position. So I think that's dope that he did that, and people fuck with that. Now, Eminem doesn't do that as much. I'm gonna say that, what's that song, Untouchable? Like the cop one? So check that out. So here's my theory on that, okay, before we say anything. That song sucks, but it could have been dope because it's like a dope, well-written song, but the beat, I don't know what the fuck, like, who let that shit fly with the Cheech and Chong chorus sample and shit? It's just bad. It's so, like, if that song had been better produced and, like, approached a little more methodically and carefully rather than, like, the blundering, clunky sample mess it is that Rick Rubin in his weird...
But even, like, the subject matter of that song...
No, because I think, come on, man, it's dope. Like, to have Eminem try to, like, talk about... I mean, it's just interesting for him to use his privilege to talk about that shit.
Let's go back to what you try to. And I think that's my problem with that song. It's that the more I've learned about the situation is the more, like, I've like, if we want to just pivot, at first time I heard Joyner Lucas's I'm Not Racist, I was like, that's pretty fresh.
Yeah.
But the more I listened to it, the more I realized this is good clickbait. And then when I listen to Untouchable, you're absolutely correct about it being, like, well constructed and stuff. But instead of being, like, this really deep, profound, like, thing, it's just pretty superficial.
Yeah, but I think, like, would we be talking about it the same way if, like, it was a polished song that was presented differently? Or would we be like, yo, that was a really important record? You know, like imagine Untouchable over top of Kendrick Lamar's like Section 80 kind of beat, you know?
I think it's more than the beat. I think it's also the way he approached it all.
But like the beat, so hear me out. The beat would force him to like approach it differently, right? So like a softer beat would make him not yell.
That's a good point.
That beat was like a clunky, thumpy anthem of like rock and roll. So he's like, bah, 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 you know. But if it was like a soft, laid back beat where it's like introspective, I think he'd probably do something a little better like that. And granted, I think there's like a couple beat choices on his recent work where it's like your team is fucking up and someone should say something.
I think Eminem decided that he wanted to prove he could do what other people were doing. And if you look at it from a versatility perspective, he's hitting every base. Even on a revival and whatnot, Kamikaze, they hit so many bases that I almost feel like you're supposed to find like 3 songs, 4 songs that you're gonna binge a whole bunch. Whereas you take something like Marshall Mathers LP and it's just cohesively one style of rap. Like there is one style that you're getting on this whole album. Maybe like 2 as you venture sometimes more into horrorcore than others. But like it's just not like, I don't know, I feel like instead it's if Eminem wants to be an underground legend while living like a pop star.
Yeah, and it's just like you can't be everything to everyone, or if you're gonna try, you got to do it better than you're doing it. Because Ed Sheeran is being everything to everyone right now, so deconstruct how he did it.
I don't know, man. I feel like Ed Sheeran is not somebody on my radar of interest. He had Divide, and then he released a lot of collaborations, and what I saw online is it was a lot of insignificant. It wasn't like I don't imagine he's gonna ride the wave like he did with Divide, which was okay.
I don't know, he's having a moment right now. I think there's a lot of promotion going into it.
But I mean, I'm seeing like the YouTube response side to it all, right? Which doesn't necessarily mean it's right, because let's be real, YouTube is not a reflection of everybody. It's just our little pocket of the universe. Like you see it a lot with gamers rant and rave, and I'm talking about like the gamers on the internet. Like they reflect everybody, and then your average person just gives no shits about any of it, hits play and, you know, buys the next Call of Duty when it drops either way.
It's true. I always wonder what the average person thinks of all this. Maybe they're people.
They don't watch videos this long.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think
cat videos and shit.
I don't think it's that bad, but I think it's so. I have had a couple of interesting experiences in regards to this. At one point at work, I was asked to be the DJ for the office party. So, like these parents and stuff were like sending me like stuff like Post Malone's Rockstar, these trap songs. I'm like, what in the world are you asking for? But it's because all these people have kids, and their kids like all these songs, and they play all of these songs. And now what I think is happening is you have a bunch of 13-year-olds playing a bunch of music with a bunch of parents picking the best of the stuff the 13-year-olds are playing and pushing that shit to number 1 by playing it all over the radio.
I don't think the parents are paying that close attention. Some of them are, I guess, and so I guess some tracks that appeal to them maybe go a little further.
But it's like they're all listening to radio.
Yeah. But I think it's also like, 13-year-olds never really have the best taste in music. Some do, some don't. But
it's pretty crazy how I think valued their opinion is to a program director relative to like say us, where I think there's a part of us that believes we have any real say in what pops. That's why I don't think a lot of artists above the age of 25 should even give a shit about getting signed. Like you're too old to like probably connect with the young audience, and the young audience controls the world. So go like find that.
I don't know, because Eminem got signed at 26, Macklemore got signed at 27. Not signed, but you know what I mean. I
believe
got
that
big at 36.
There are exceptions. Don't get me wrong, but on your rule of thumb point of view for it, I just don't see.
Yeah, I think
with the way the trends are flipping, it's more likely like 16-year-olds on YouTube are going to get picked up a lot more than 27-year-olds.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you're only going to be the exception of the rule unless you're shifting a genre. But yeah, to be like the young popping artist, especially with what's popping, like it's going to be younger and younger artists, and it's going to be less and less what you like and care about. Because already I look at the freshman XXL list kind of thing, and I'm like, I don't know any of these dudes, and half of these motherfuckers sound like I'm going to race them in a Mario Kart game.
What's interesting is how a lot of guys you might respect are turning it down. Because there's no value in it anymore.
Oh, for real? Is that a thing?
Yeah. So, like, I don't know if you know Benny the Butcher. If not, you must check out Benny the Butcher. Dude's fucking fire when it comes to those, like Wu-Tang blessed dudes, Raekwon or whatever, I think blessed his album.
Oh,
or one
fire.
of their, like, from that, like, school. It was either him or West Side Gun or whatever. Still, they're all the same squad. Anyway, guy had the opportunity to do it, and Jay-Z told him to turn it down.
Oh, yeah? Just because it's so ridiculous now?
But it's like, also, do you want to affiliate yourself with it, right? I guess that's exactly what you just said. But it's like, it's like to the point of a label. Like, what are you gonna do?
I would have been like, Jay-Z, what? I'm sorry, you're Jay-Z. You don't do it. I am Benny the Butcher, and therefore I have not been heard of by anyone who checks out XXL now. And you know what? I bet you everyone who checks out XXL already knows who Jay-Z is. So I don't think you have anything personally invested.
I think Benny's
I'm
alright.
fucking around, but
Benny's alright. He's
shit.
attached to Eminem at this point. You get attached to Eminem in some way, your career's set.
Oh, okay.
Like, he's part of, like I said earlier, Griselda. You should check out his shit, man. It's pretty good street shit.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
But either way, anytime,
What do you think, Raekwon? What should I do? Do I listen to Jay-Z or do...
I wouldn't do it because, like, it's like getting signed. I mean, yeah, if you're like 19 and maybe you really don't have any interest in like learning the business, I mean, you can get signed if you want to have fun. You want to ride that way for a quick minute. But like, if you want to make a sustainable business, it seems like it's more viable to pull 50K a year profit a year than it is to make $1 million.
I don't know. I think all press is good press. And Anderson .Paak was on one of those things talking about a fleshlight and a shitty freestyle, and look at where he's at. So
Anderson .Paak was going places no matter what Anderson .Paak did.
That's a good point. But that's the whole thing, is that if I'm going to be there, I'm going to be at a point where I'm going to be going places no matter what. So I might as well just get this additional free press, because why would I turn it down on merit?
But then you might get the curse of the freshman class where, you know, how many of them actually just disappear.
Yeah, but
in the
that's
limelight.
Not a curse, though. What that is it's people who get way too successful way too fast so that they don't understand their own success and they can't reverse engineer it to recreate it, versus me, who I've been doing this shit for so long and like trial and error. And granted, I don't know everything, but I understand what I do, and so I have like a formula and a winning formula. So if I was at a point,
another thing to look at,
that's my take on it,
for that freshman class, is knowing that 75% of the rappers is going to be a style that maybe doesn't fuck with you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense for your brand, for the people watching it? So on the one hand, you're right. For your career, it could be like hella good press.
Also, that's been my style my whole life, has been like the guy who's there with a different style from everyone else. Like, I was doing punk shows, I was doing like hip hop shows with some conscious shit when like fucking Lil Wayne was popping off. I don't know. Do you
remember that show where the girl peed on the stage at that punk place?
Yes, I do.
That was a good show.
That was a crazy show.
I just think it's interesting. Like, I don't know. Like, I sometimes just wonder. Like, I know if somebody tried to sign me, I'm like, nah, I don't think I want a record label. Like, unless like it's some fantasy bullshit where like I get to keep all the control and then there's like no risk. Okay, I'll take that deal, but that's like a fantasy.
Yeah, I think it's like, for me, it would just be a case-by-case thing where it's like, what are you offering? Because a record label is just a loan.
Exactly.
A record deal is just a loan. So it's like, are you offering a loan plus, like, what's the interest rate look like? And, like, what do you get money back off of? Is this like a no-risk loan? It's like Dragon's Den.
But then on the other hand, when you take the promotional move, I wonder if there is a consequence in this day and age to doing something like a freshman class. If you're, let's say, we're going to have to call you on the more lyrical side of things. You have definitely not been... Well, if you listen to the freshman class, I would say it's not what you do in regards to that vapid shit. Although Megan Thee Stallion's really talented, so she's fun to watch. But, like, in general, like, it doesn't seem to be like the kind of vibe that would go with people who think a lot about the music. And that's why I wonder if it's just worth it to just show up and do it. And then, but then again, if it's part of your brand, then I guess it makes sense to just do that.
Yeah, I guess also it's worth noting that like Benny the Butcher sounds more like a Wu-Tang kind of guy, and my thing is very different because I'm not that. I'm very fluid and like chameleon-like in the sense that I'll have like a song that can be very barsy and like not hard but like just lyrical, and then I can like flip around and make a pop song as well. So it's just like
It has,
like whatever is required of me, I kind of just fit that.
that's fair. So the moral of the story there is it makes sense based on your brand. I don't know if you can hear the sirens, but
Wow, this happens all the time.
we're in Toronto. So as you know, it's got a lot of, I don't know if this is bad for the video, but
All right, let's circle back to that album as we close this out. Was there anything while we're both here and you have me answering questions in an AMA style, is there anything that stuck out to you in the album that was curious or that you wanted to get some clarification on or find a story about?
was
Putting you on the
the
spot.
all the way down song based on like a specific person or more of a generalized thing?
It's weird. I wrote that while I was dating a person, and then the song kind of became about them, but it's an exaggeration of what went down.
Fair enough. It's
yeah.
it's a little bit of an extreme story.
A lot of times like art becomes life kind of shit for me, and so that was one of those cases where that happened.
So in general, do you prefer the live instrument thing? And do you like performing with a band?
Yeah, I like performing with a band, but it's difficult to organize. If I could divvy it up, it would be like half DJ, half band. And then whatchamacallit, for live shit, like I really like live guitars. There's a better sound when you get a live bass. Drums are difficult to track, but they do sound good. And it just depends on what the track needs. Like some tracks need live instrumentation, some don't. You know, there were some tracks that like when I made it back in 2015, I just assumed everything needed live instrumentation, and then I ended up scrapping it later on. So like drums and shit. So.
Fair enough. What inspired the cover?
The cover is actually cool because I used to have like bleached hair, and you saw it on the first cover where it was like green and shit. And then it went to like this like sickly yellow for a while, and I just wanted like a fresh start as I was like quitting booze and everything. And I like hired this photographer, Felice, who came through, and she shot some Polaroids of me like cutting my hair and cutting all the bleach off to represent like a new part of my life. And there's like, you know, there's like pills on a mirror and weed and alcohol, and it's like I'm pouring the alcohol down the drain, but I'm gonna smoke, and I'm like getting rid of the pills. And it's just this like weird transformation piece where like there's a lot happening in the title, and you can see me in the mirror like cutting the hair off. And yeah, so I like legit cut my hair off and then got a haircut like after that. And then yeah,
That's pretty cool.
it's been the style since.
I don't
So
know.
it's a different Myer Clarity of no bleach. Yeah.
It's probably better for your hair. Just
Yeah.
throw it out there.
Exactly. I don't want to be bald by the time I'm like fucking 35.
Nah,
Some shit.
it's probably not a good thing.
Although I would rock the bald, yeah, I'd fucking shave that shit off and just grow a big beard. Get jacked.
Fair enough. I know I feel like I should have more questions, but I feel like on the
No.
other hand, you're pretty like clear, dude. And
Yeah.
you also like he hit me up in the DMs and like started responding to stuff. I may have called one of his lyrics corny. I should have responded to that point.
No, I think I like said it was like you've been pretty dead on about the instincts, and maybe not like corny, but like if it was pandery, yeah, I could see that.
It was
But,
a little.
yeah.
It's a little. I would call it a little sellout-y song on Getting Tatted Up and whatnot. I believe it's that one.
Yeah, that one's pretty candy, or like bubblegum.
Like, I believe the way I would describe it is it would probably get Myer laid.
Yeah.
It's a good, I mean, you should probably have songs like that. Like,
It's important because sex sells things, so you should do that. That's not the goal. I'm not out here making music to get pussy. But if I make sexy songs,
but like that is some
People will probably
seriously like
listen more.
14-year-old girl heartthrob music for real.
Yeah.
So you accomplished that goal on that track.
Well, there we
Totally
go.
not the right demo for that one.
It was the Little Peep song they were all waiting for.
Lil Peep is pretty cool. Do you like Lil Peep?
I like Lil Peep, but I have a weird love-hate relationship because I got compared to him a lot, and it's annoying because I was like in a vacuum creating my own thing when all of a sudden everyone's like, you are ripping off Lil Peep, and it's like, I just heard, like, I just got to this party and you're saying that I've been copying this guy who I just heard of, and it's just like we think alike, all right?
Yeah.
You know, but
I don't know.
pivoted away.
I'm not even gonna lie. Having heard a fair bit of Lil Peep's music, outside of maybe the aesthetic, I don't even see it.
Yeah, he was a dope artist, I think. Yeah, I don't know. There's some hits.
Yeah, I
That's
know. Anyway, so that has been cool. I don't have a
Yeah.
lot more to say at this point. I feel like rather than letting it drone on, we could wrap that up.
Hell
So it's
yeah.
been cool. It's nice to see you.
Fuck yeah, man. It was dope to reconnect, and I appreciate you coming through the studio.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's nice to be in Toronto. I'm not even gonna lie. Before we do take off, though, I just want to look over you at the YouTube people. Thank y'all for watching. Totally dope that y'all stuck through it and watched it with us and stuff. Feel free to leave a comment if you make that effort to leave a comment. I'll totally make sure to respond to y'all. Hit that like button if you did like it. Feel free to subscribe if you do. And, special thanks to the patrons. This Milk It Down, Chris Proud, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Black, Hurricane, Linda Williams, and Coney Sparks. They're freaking dope. They have this guy new camera. And they get to tell us I'm survey every couple of weeks. So for a buck more a month, you can totally check that shit out. And it would be real cool. And you could show support and help us do more interesting stuff on the internet here.
Follow Myer Clarity.
And he has stuff too. Right.
That's it. Just follow Myer Clarity. MYERCLARITY.
That's
Find
what's
me
up.
anywhere.
I'll probably have it linked below in the description too. So yeah, thank y'all for watching. It's pretty awesome, y'all, and have a great day.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, man. Appreciate you. It was dope talking, dope chatting.
Same.
Peace out, internet.
Bye bye.